Okay, we're still holding Parashat Vayeshev. In Parashat Vayeshev, what becomes evident from the very beginning of the Parasha is that the brothers don't get along, especially with Yosef. There is a certain degree of kin'ah, of jealousy, that happened partly as a result of Yaakov showing some favoritism. And the rabbis, by the way, do tell us that be careful, don't show favoritism for one boy, for one child more than for another, because you can see what happened with Yosef. Obviously, Yaakov didn't mean any favoritism. He loved all his children alike. But Yosef had certain qualities, perhaps, that were very special. Not only was he the Bechor of Rachel, which was his really intended wife, he also in many ways resembled Yaakov. He taught him Torah, so they got very close. In any event, jealousy appears to be a problem in the very beginning of the Parashat Vayeshev, and it's exacerbated, and it becomes a bigger problem with Yosef telling his brothers about the dreams that he had, and by snitching on them. Everybody know what's to snitch? Reporting, tattletaling, gossiping about what he thought he saw his brothers do. It was not exactly what they were doing, and he got himself into trouble. And I don't think we have to go over the whole story of how he got himself into trouble, because in the end, they sold him. An important lesson that is learned from here, that applies not only back then, but especially today that we have the Torah, is that it's not enough to just learn Torah and to be knowledgeable in the halachot, in the history, in the Tanakh, the Midrashim. That's very important. One needs to know how to conduct a Jewish life, so he needs to be knowledgeable. But another very important part of every Jew's life and every human being is derech eretz. Derech eretz means knowing how to relate to people, to human beings in general. The Rabbi tells that derech eretz is so important that derech eretz kadma la Torah. It comes before the Torah.
Derech eretz is kindness.
Derech eretz means being able to conduct yourself correctly and properly with people. It means having good midot, or as they say in Yiddish, being a mensch, being a good man. And that applies to every human being, and that applies to the Jew. It means being good and being proper with everybody, regardless of their faith and their religion. So the Rabbi says derech eretz kadma la Torah, which means that if you take the Torah and analyze it, you will find that many of the mitzvot are ben adam la makom, between us and God, and many of them are ben adam la chavero, between man and man, between the Jew and his brother. The mitzvot ben adam la chavero really, in some sense, constitute derech eretz, because what they all have in common is proper conduct. Do not steal, do not cheat him, do not lie to him, do not mislead him, do not hurt him. So it does not necessarily have to do with actions, which is the examples I just gave, but it has to do with character too, which means not to be envious, not to covet or desire what your friend has. All of that is part of derech eretz. Having the right outlook, having the right mindset as to how to deal with human beings. Being good-natured. And some people, of course, have a difficult time with this, as with any other mitzvah, because by nature, they're not polished. I'm being very tactful. I say they're not polished. But that's what a human being is. He's an unpolished diamond. If he polishes himself, each one in his own way, he can become a true diamond. He can become like a malach, like an angel. And that applies to anybody. So even though the brothers of Yosef, including Yosef, were on a very high level, on a very high madrigah, we can never perfectly understand their actions. The Torah tells us this story for a good reason. There's a lot to learn from this. And what is obviously important from this whole episode is that jealousy can lead to trouble. Hatred leads to more trouble. And this, unfortunately, can even happen amongst brothers. Just because brothers have the same father and mother does not guarantee that they won't get into fights. Unfortunately, many brothers get into big fights. Because of what? Either because of their wives, or because of money, or because of just jealousy. The jealousy brings a lot of problems. If one is envious of another, he wants to have what the other one has. That he's capable of doing all sorts of things, even killing. So that is something that is obvious from that episode in the beginning of Parashat Vayeshev. Partly, we will see this in Parashat Niket, but partly some of these problems are resolved in Galut Mitzrayim. What happens in a Galut, in a diaspora? In a diaspora, the one who's the minority feels some degree of prejudice against it. Discrimination, right? Jews have been put in ghettos, they've been put as second-class citizens, right? They're not treated alike. So what happens as a result? They stick together. So minorities in some ways benefit from the fact that even though they're being mistreated, mishandled, but they amongst themselves are more united, are strengthened. So that was one of the immediate benefits of Galut Mitzrayim, which I'll speak about more in Parashat Miketz. What's the purpose of Galut Mitzrayim to begin with? Why did Hashem put the Jews in Mitzrayim for so long? Why did they have to be treated the way they were? What did they sin? What was their sin? Well, obviously we know that it all begins with Mechirat Yosef, and that has a lot to do with it. But we still have to understand what did they gain in Mitzrayim. After all, if you look at the Galut, Hashem has a reason for the Galut. There are various reasons. One of the reasons, believe it or not, is to be able to assemble all the Gerim, all the potential converts that are scattered all over the earth. By us being in every spot, every corner of the earth, people will see what the Jew is, what Judaism represents, and they will, if they belong to the Jewish people, if there's some spark of divinity in their neshama, they will be attracted like a magnet, and they will join. Another reason that Hashem scattered the Yehudim, the Galut, is that the ones who go after them, especially Amalek, should not be able to catch them all in one spot. They should be scattered. You won't be able to get. You'll get this, you won't get that part, that shevet. But these are indirect benefits. There are other reasons that we need to explain. One second. We need to explain, and I'll talk about it when we get into Parashat Miketz, of what benefit does the Jew receive directly from the Galut. After all, we see the disadvantages are many. We're not in Eretz Yisrael. We have no Beit HaMikdash. We're scattered. We're a minority. We're mistreated. So we have to understand what Hashem does. Ultimately, of course, Galut is a punishment. But every punishment is not a punishment the way we understand punishment. When Hashem punishes and He brings about Yisurim, there's a to'elet for the person, for the individual. The individual receives some benefit, some good from it. So we'll discuss it when we get to Parashat Miketz. I don't think we can do that today. What the benefits of Galut are. Yeah.
If Yosef did go to Mitzrayim, we wouldn't have gone?
No, we would still have gone. It would have happened in a different way. Okay? The next point that is evident in Parashat Vayeshev from the very beginning, which would have helped the whole problem of Yosef and his brothers, is Ladun et kol adam lechav zechut, which we've spoken about many times. A great quality for anyone to possess and to work on, to develop, is to judge everybody favorably, or as we say in English, to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. Because all of us, from time to time, we hear complaints, or we'll hear lashon hara, or we'll hear just a story about somebody. It may not be true. It may be true. Regardless, even if it's true, it's important for us to judge people positively, favorably, because if not, we immediately form an impression of that individual that was just described to us. Whether it was a small detail, whether it was a whole big story, we form an opinion. We're affected, we're influenced. And that could be disastrous, because if we eventually have him as an employee coming to, in other words, for an interview, we may already have some information in our head which may be true or not true, without giving him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe there's a reason and there's an explanation for what he said or what he did. And this is very, very important for another reason. If we do not judge people favorably, not only maybe we are wrong, if we investigate it, if we were to ask and come closer to the individual and ask him what happened, we would find out exactly what his intentions were to begin with. Maybe the whole thing is a fabrication. Maybe what we observed is totally a mirage. It's not real. Yosef observed certain things by his brothers, but the rabbis tell us, had he gone closer, had he spoken to them, had he investigated, he would have seen that he was wrong. He, for example, saw them eating what he thought, as they say in legal jargon, he was alleging, right, that they were eating ever min achai, which is a limb from a live animal. That it was without slaughtering, they chopped off the limb and they ate it. Because he saw the animal moving. The animal was still moving and he saw them eating. But if you ever go to a slaughterhouse, many times, especially with chickens, you can sometimes see a chicken without a head running. You will see an animal, shemefarkes. Mefarkes means that it's still moving around even after it's been slaughtered. The nervous system.
You can't eat an animal cooked. Can you eat it raw?
You can eat it raw, right?
You can eat even if it's killed appropriately.
If it's killed appropriately, you can eat it raw. There's no issue of eating meat raw.
They say it's not healthy.
The blood that is removed by the salting process is only if you're going to cook it. Since you're going to cook the meat, once the meat is cooked, the blood, the internal blood, moves around. Once the blood moves around in the meat, Adam poresh me'amakom, the blood has moved from its original spot, that dam becomes a surah. But so long as the blood has not moved, it's there, it's a raw piece of meat, there's no prohibition against that blood. Now the real blood that is a sumidoraita, which is a real serious blood, is a dam hanefesh, which comes out when you sever the arteries and the food and windpipe. At that point, a whole amount of blood rushes or gushes out. That is a sumidoraita. But the blood, the internal blood in the meat, does not have the same strict prohibition, and it's only prohibited if you're going to cook it because the blood is going to move around. And then once the blood starts moving around, it is treated the same way as any blood. So theoretically, if you want to eat it raw, you don't have to salt it. You can eat it. But ever min ha'chai is prohibited. So it looked like they were eating ever min ha'chai, but the animal was dead. Okay? And there are other situations that he accused them of. Had he looked into it, he would have found out that it's not exactly what he thought of.
What's difficult for me to get a picture of is the mistakes that Yosef is making, and in a short period of time, he had such ruach hakodesh.
He did not have ruach hakodesh, really.
These dreams.
He had prophetic dreams.
Well,
it's different.
Call it what you want.
Right.
Call it prophetic dreams.
Right.
Whatever term you want to use. He had this ability.
By the way, when you hear Shabbat, I spoke about why he had the dreams he had.
Was attending to my children in the other room.
That's a good reason.
But again, he goes from essentially being just like a common man, making common mistakes and judging people prematurely,
right,
to what we call Yosef HaTzadik, his ability to resist Potiphar's wife, things that we would see would take him from a certain level to a much higher level.
That's correct.
How did that transformation take place in such a short period of time?
Right, good question. What we see is human nature in action. In other words, everybody's human, everybody has a Yetzer Hara. And the Torah does tell us in the very beginning that V'hu na'ar ibnei bilha. What's na'ar? He was doing what teenagers do. He would take care of himself. He would comb his hair and straighten his eyebrows or do whatever. These kind of things. Maseh na'arut. So with age comes maturity. One grows older, he becomes more mature. One learns from experience, which Yosef did too. And as you will see, towards the end of Parashat Vayeshev, and especially Parashat Miketz, Yosef learned a lot from his own experiences. So everybody can make a mistake. Even Moshe Rabbeinu made certain mistakes. Right?
And the lesson he and his father Yaakov learned together.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, they learn Torah. So people make mistakes. Human beings make mistakes. That's okay. That's human nature. The important thing is to learn from them and make sure they don't repeat. But that they will happen, they can happen. And Yosef was not an exception. Nevertheless, Yosef, in his growing up, stands out above everybody else in a very important way. He was able to withstand difficult challenges. That not everybody can do. And that is why Yosef is called Yosef HaTzadik, because he withstood challenges which were very difficult. With the Esher Potiphar, many human beings would not have been able to withstand that kind of pressure.
Why the dreams? You said about Shabbat.
The first dream that he had about the alumim, about the wheat, that was in a way a remez min hashamayim, a sign from heaven. Hey, there's something wrong that you're doing because there's going to be a decree of hunger. You're going to be concerned with wheat, putting together wheat, buying wheat, right?
So he had some. It's not ruach, but it was
nevuah or halom, a prophetic dream, a message. Anyway, so judging people favorably is important because you can avoid a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of problems. How do we do that? How do we train ourselves to judge people favorably, to give everybody the benefit of the doubt? We need to remember that everybody is important. Every human being is precious. Hashem created all of us in the image of God. And everybody's here to contribute something. Therefore, if we remember that everybody's here to contribute something, that everybody's precious, we're not going to be jealous of him. If he has something that I don't have, obviously that's his contribution. I have something that he doesn't have. We all have something that the other one does not have. There's no duplication here. So we all contribute. Everybody's important. So by thinking in that way, there's no need to be jealous, to be envious of anybody. And when you see somebody doing something, there's no reason to hate him or to judge him unfavorably, because perhaps it is the lack of your understanding of what his intention is, why is he doing something. In other words, nobody is perfect. And just because you cannot see yourself doing what he is doing, you don't know what you would do if you were to be in his shoes. So there's so many possibilities that one should not therefore rush to judgment. Should analyze it, think about it, and develop this trait of giving everybody the benefit of the doubt and not being envious. These 2 points, if they're dealt with correctly, can save a person a lot of nefesh, a lot of grief. You're right. People, become disappointed in life. People become very depressed because they're not being treated well, whether it's by a spouse or by a friend. And they don't realize sometimes that it's not that the other person is bad or evil. It's just that perhaps they're not as capable of giving, of sacrificing as much as he is. There are people who are so good. They have a golden heart. They'll do anything to the other person. They put other people on a pedestal. And they're the ones that suffer the most. Either people take advantage of them, right? Or people do not reciprocate as much as they do. And they become very, very sad and depressed and disappointed. Why isn't he as nice as I am to him? Because people are different. He doesn't mean bad. He just doesn't have that in his nature. He doesn't. Some people don't know how to express, love or sympathy, or they don't know how to say thank you. It doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means that they're different. There's a big difference. There's a big distance between bad and not knowing how to express something, or just not being tactful. It takes time to learn to be tactful, to be polite, to polish, what words to use. And some people are better than others because of their nature. Other people are just blunt, open, and direct. That's their nature. I'm sure all of you know people like that. And there are other people that would never utter a bad word. They're very careful. They don't want to insult. They don't want to offend someone.
They're politically correct.
They're politically correct. Now, the problem is with the people who are politically correct that they don't necessarily have the heart either. It's only pure words. I don't mean those. I mean that even if you have to say something, we go through this a lot at work. Sometimes we have to write a letter which is not very sympathetic. We're raising your taxes. How does that sound? Terrible. So, and I tell people how to do this because I'm assigned to this sometimes. I would begin a letter, dear so and so, we were happy to receive your complaint. We heard about your complaint, and we realized that this must have caused you, tremendous anguish. I'm giving you an example right now, and we definitely want to deal with it, and we're going to help you. And here's my phone number. But, however, due to the new construction and that beautiful swimming pool that you just built, the taxes will go up by a small amount. You see what I mean? You have to know how to play with it. You don't throw it to them directly in the beginning. You use nice words, you compliment, and then you put it as, by the way. It's the same at home too. It's the same. You got to know how to play.
Even with the kids.
Yes, you got to know how to play if you want to be effective. Yeah. Anyway, so we're dealing Vayeshev. We're dealing with human nature. We're dealing with problems that we're familiar with, but these problems can be dealt with, can be solved. Another important point that is related to this is what the rabbis called kavod hazulat, one's respect. Not one's respect, but respecting others, recognizing that everybody wants some respect. Some people live for respect, crave for it. They're just looking for it, and others, they just like to be respected. Another word for this would be not respect, but esteem. Some people lack a little bit of self-esteem. If people want to have a little bit of esteem, a little bit of kavod, it's important to them. It's important to say a good word to anybody. You did a good job, even though you don't think it was who knows what, but he did a good job. The rabbis even tell us that go ahead and lie, not exactly lie, but exaggerate a little bit when you're in front of a kala, of a newlywed. Tell the groom, you know what? Your choice is so good. You have great taste. You have a beautiful kala. And you kala, you got the best man. He's so handsome. He's so nice. Make them feel good. It's a mitzvah, believe it or not. It's a mitzvah to make the Hatan and Kala happy. Even though you think, oh, wow, why did he pick her of all people? Right? That may be your taste. When it comes to flavor and odors, you can't argue. Yes, and it's good, right? In other words, you can't argue taste and odors, right? People have different tastes, so at least make the guy feel good. Tell him, your choice is a good choice. Wow.
The beauty is in the eyes of the beholder.
Nothing better.
So the Torah tells us in a nutshell this principle in the pasuk ve'ahavta le'reacha kamocha. Love your friend as yourself. What does that mean? Can you really love somebody like yourself? That's not impossible. Impossible. What does the Torah want? Torah is really saying be concerned for the welfare of another human being as you are for yourself. When you are concerned for somebody, you care for him. You care for him. That's called love in various degrees. Love comes in various degrees. The love a father has for a child, the love a husband has for his wife, love of friends. So ve'ahavta does not necessarily mean love, desire. In the same way we understand it, it means to be concerned and to care about someone. If you really love someone, you don't just desire them, you care for them and you do for them. If you care for someone, you will do for them. And that's love. Just to desire, the physical desire, that's not called love. That means you want something. You love her? No, you want her. That's what you really mean. You desire her. If you love her means that you really care for her. Or you admire some of the qualities and you want to do for her. So be concerned for your fellow Jew, just like you would want them to be concerned for you. You don't want to hurt them because you don't want them to hurt you. The rabbis tell us, and therefore when it comes to husband and wife, they tell us, ohava kegufo. You can only love her as much as you love yourself. But when it comes to giving respect to your wife, respect her more than you respect yourself. What does that mean? Love, I just explained, you can't love somebody more than you love yourself. Or even as yourself, it's very difficult. So care. Care for your wife as much as you care for yourself. But the Rabbi says when it comes to kavod, giving other people kavod, when it comes to your wife, give her more kavod than you give yourself. How is that? A lot of people are very, I'm going to be polite and polished, economical. I don't want to use the word stingy.
Why not?
No, because some people are not really stingy. They're economical. They don't like to waste money. Okay? So they buy themselves one suit a year. One suit a year, one shirt every 2 years, and a tie every 3-4 years.
This is stinginess.
No! Economical! No! Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating a little
2
bit.
suits
Okay?
a year.
Okay.
3 shirts a year.
Depends how much money you have. Now, depends if you get a bargain. Okay, I just gave you an example. So when his wife comes to ask him for some money to buy a new dress, you just got one last year. You just got one last year. Why do you want another one this year? You have to realize that women think differently. Women need 4 dresses a year. Some need more. So I don't know. I'm just making up numbers right now. Means don't compare yourself to her. Give her more respect. She needs that. The women need that. And I wish I knew this when I first got married. I'm still learning.
They do.
They have a whole different kind of nature.
Yeah.
Completely different nature. And they all read the same book, Isaac, right? Yeah. More or less. Understand? So we have to understand that, and that helps to stimulate the marriage. If one gives kavod to his wife, even if she's wrong, and you know what? Many times they are not right. They are not right.
You never win anyway.
They're not right. But you want to have shalom bayit, so you have to know how to change subjects very quickly. That's, by the way, the best way to win an argument. You change subjects. You don't argue directly head on. Change subjects.
You don't win an argument.
Right, so change subjects. Yes, no, forget it. Change subjects, forget it, right? I think that's the
Close
best
the door.
way. Yeah, close the door. I don't know about that one. Change the subject. Yeah. Anyway, this idea of honoring, giving respect to another human being is very, very much a Jewish idea. The Gentiles don't believe in that. You know why? The Greeks, since it's Hanukkah right now, might as well bring it out. What was their main philosophy? You come first. Bodybuilding. They were into bodybuilding, exercise, right? They were into themselves. The Greeks said, you come first. That was their philosophy. The Greek philosophy is, you come first. And you know what? In today's world, you hear it very much here. From time to time, you will hear an advertisement. Why don't you take this vacation? You owe it to yourself. Haven't you heard of that? Yeah. You owe it to yourself. And all sorts of ideas like that. Why don't you get yourself, people call me up, you need a loan? I said no. He said, no. Don't you want to remodel the kitchen? No. Don't you want to consolidate your debts? I have no debts. Don't you want to go on a vacation?
Vacation travel.
When I need to, I will go. Not when you want me to.
You want to have some cash in the bank.
Yeah. That's what the credit card is built around, Buy yourself, treat yourself, you owe it to yourself, right?
Daily.
Throw out that old computer, buy yourself a new computer. It's a little bit faster, junk, it's outdated, right? Everything is money. So it's all built around yourself. It's a certain degree of selfishness. And that was what the philosophy of Yavan was. Don't think of him, think of yourself first. The Torah is against that. The Avtala Recha Kamocha means everything is mutual. We're all in the same boat. We're all one family. Now, even though this is a mitzvah lereacha, which means your Jewish brother, it doesn't mean you have to mistreat people who are not Jewish. You have to treat everybody well, but the obligation, the duty, and mitzvah of treating or of caring is only amongst the Jewish people. You don't have to go out of your way with people of a different faith. You don't have to mistreat them either, but you don't have to go out of your way. I'll give you an example. You see it on the freeway at 2:30 in the morning, a Jew with a flat tire. Regardless whether he has AAA, you don't know that when you're driving by. You stop and you help him. It's a mitzvah. We learn it out from the Torah. It's one of the mitzvot. The Torah uses a donkey, right? If he's, he can't move, it's overloaded. Today we don't use donkeys except if you're in Afghanistan maybe, but you use cars. You have to help him, even if he's your enemy. Enemy meaning even though you don't like the guy, you haven't spoken to him for a while. Still help him out. That is a mitzvah. If you see somebody else in the street, you don't have to at 2:30 in the morning stop for every human being you see in the street. It's a nice thing. It's a beautiful thing. You better be careful too. Today we have other problems. It's not like in the past generation or two ago where people left their doors open. Things were different back then. Today you have concerns. Somebody falls in the street in New York and he's bleeding. Everybody goes by him. They don't even look at him. That's because New Yorkers are like that. Here, perhaps they would do, but they may be afraid if you do the wrong thing, you'll be sued. So they tell you, I took courses in first aid, etc., where they tell you, ask the person for permission before you try to help them. That's number one. And number two, you better know what you're doing. And before you do number two, give a phone call. Call the emergency. So they should come. Anyway, so kavod, lazulav, is a Jewish thing. And it's an important thing, but it's especially important at home, where you're dealing with your wife almost on a daily basis. And there's a lot of opportunities to fight and argue. So one has to be careful and realize that she needs the kavod. It's important for her to have the kavod, and it stimulates the marriage. Now you can understand why the Goyim do not like our Torah. What is President Bush in the United States talking about these days? We are fighting for freedom, for democracy, right? For justice. These things are not written in the Torah. The Torah doesn't say you have to fight for freedom. Torah values other things a lot more than freedom. You don't have to fight for freedom. Freedom is a beautiful thing, but that's not something that's written in the Torah. The Torah speaks about other values. We have a different system of values of what's important to us, what we need to fight for. We fight against corruption, right? Things like that. Different things. Freedom and liberty, these are, nice things. But you don't have to go kill civilians for that. A lot of civilians got killed in their fight for freedom. Our freedom and our liberty is in danger. Yeah, and we understand that, but that's not something that the Torah says that you have to necessarily fight for. So a lot of the values that we have in the Torah, the Goyim feel very uncomfortable with, because it tends to put certain limits. But it's not the limit so much. It is the emphasis that you are not first, that you have to treat everybody alike, you have to give others respect. And a lot of the religions today, Christianity and Islam, borrowed several things from Judaism, and they don't necessarily implement it. And they definitely are not good role models. And that's because they have a hard time with it. And that is why the Midrash says when Hashem offered the Torah to the nations, it doesn't really mean he went door to door. He means that he saw that it would not be possible for Ishmael and Edom and the like to observe 613 mitzvot, these kind of commandments. It's not compatible with them. They love to steal. They think of themselves. They want to cheat. they want to murder. Or even if they don't, they will be tempted to. They'll have a hard time. They'll struggle with this Torah. It's not compatible with it. So when they see our values, they have a hard time with it. Alright, next point, next part of the parasha is Yosef being thrown into the pit. Why is he thrown into the pit? So the brothers claim, in this way we will not shed blood. Right? We will throw him into the pit so as to not shed blood. After all, they say he's our brother, he's our flesh. But the rabbis tell us in the Midrash that boar had nachashim v'akravim, had snakes and scorpions, which is very dangerous too. So what do you mean they wanted to save his life? So the Zohar says like this: what they really meant is that they were aware that there were scorpions and snakes. They wanted to see if he's a real tzaddik or not. Because snakes and scorpions don't have free will. They would only harm a human being if they're told to min hashamayim, or if you step on them, maybe too. They're shlichim. They don't touch human beings. Why should they? A human being has free will. He can kill somebody even though Hashem does not necessarily want it. In other words, initially did not want it. Hashem can just step away and let it happen. It doesn't mean that Hashem decreed that it should happen, that He wanted it, He told him to do it. Hashem can step aside and says, you know what? I'm going to let it happen. If he gets killed, he gets killed. Sometimes Hashem performs miracles and the guy's gun jams, as it happened in many stories. Or he misses. Or if it's in the gallows, the rope tears and breaks. That has happened many times too. And I think there's even a law in this country. You go free. I think after the second time or the first time, I don't know. At least they see. Why? Because they see this is Hashemayim. This is not normal. It's freaky. Right? So they let him go free. They wanted to test if he's a tzaddik. If he's a rasha, the snakes and scorpions will buy him. We're not going to do it. If he's a tzaddik, he'll survive. Somehow they were not completely convinced, and that is why they sold him later. They pulled him out. Right? And they sold him. Either they were still upset or who knows what. They were not convinced entirely, but they should have been convinced. That would have been enough for them to see that he's a tzaddik. I don't know how long he was in the pit, but he survived. Maybe it was not long enough, and that is why they just sold him. They were not convinced. But that is the big difference between human beings who have free will to actually do things. So don't mess with a human being. If you're held up, don't say, if Hashem wants to save my life, He'll save my life. No. The human being has free will, and he may exercise that free will against Hashem's wishes, believe it or not. Now, of course, Hashem may have other plans. He may stop the man, but you don't know. You can't take a chance. Because we don't know if we're tzaddikim enough for Hashem to perform a miracle for us. So we don't take any chances. We don't put ourselves in danger. If we're in the hands of a human being who has free will, we're careful. We give in. With animals, a dog will not bite you. A wild animal will not go after you. A snake or scorpion. Unless Hashem lets them. How do we know? Daniel was thrown into a lion's den. And they were hungry. They didn't touch him. Was that a miracle? Some say it was a miracle. It's not so much a miracle because Daniel had the Tselem Elokim on him. He had the image of God on him. The Torah promises in Parashat Vayeshev at the very beginning that man will have fear over the animals. He will rule over them, not the other way around. They fear man. As long as they see the Tselem Elokim. If they don't see the image of God on him, they look at him as another animal. Just like they say about sharks. When a white shark especially attacks a human being, he lets go after the first bite. Why? Because he realizes this is not a seal, and he thought it was a seal or a sea lion. This is not part of his regular diet, so he lets go. But initially he doesn't know. He can't see the difference. That is true with any other animal. If they don't see the Tselem Elokim on the human being, they think of him as just another animal, and they attack him, and they eat him sometimes. So that is what Yosef wanted to test, and that is what the Zohar explains could have been determined in the board of Nachashim Nakravim. Next point is towards the end of the Parashat Vayeshev. Yosef is put in prison. Yosef is put in prison, and he tells the son of Mashkim, remember me. I did you a favor. Get me out of this place. I don't belong here. What happened to Yosef as a result of relying on the son of Mashkim? He got 2 more years, which is what is seen in Parashat Miketz. 2 more years in jail. He was only going to spend there 10 years. He spent there 12 years. Why 10? Because he sinned against his 10 brothers. 1 year for every brother. He got another 2 years because he asked the son of Mashkim, helping out. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with asking? We're always supposed to make an ishtadlut, make an effort, and try our best. Especially if somebody has pull, try. Why not? Protectia. Try your best. Maybe you'll get out of your quagmire, your problems. What was wrong with Yosef making an effort, trying? Because he relied too much on the Sarah Mashkim. He should have relied completely on Hashem. How do we know he did? He relied too much on the Sarah Mashkim. One of the points that Yosef tells the Sarah Mashkim is, get me out of here. Why? Because I don't deserve to be here. I didn't do anything to be in jail. I didn't do anything here, he says. That was already a little bit of lack of bitachon, especially on Yosef's madrika. See, Hashem judges people according to their level. Yosef had bitachon. He knew of Hashem. He knew to rely on Hashem. On his level, he shouldn't have said something like, what do you mean you don't deserve to be here? What do you mean that you're begging, almost begging the son of Hashem to get you out of here? There's a reason why you're in jail. You must have done something. There's nothing that happens by chance, by accident. Think about that. So Yosef's handling of the whole case was not proper. That showed lack of bitachon, at least on his level. Because we have a rule that every child learns. Everything Hashem does is for the good. Even pain and suffering. Even in jail. Unless, of course, you stole money. Then obviously you pay for your action. Right? But if it's something which is not too obvious to you, then it could be an avera. Is it avon that you did somewhere? Could have been recently. It could have been a year ago. Right? What's funny is that? Okay, it could have been something. Examine your deeds. Rabbi tells us should examine his deeds. Maybe he did something wrong. Check yourself out. That of course would be helped if a person would have true bitachon in Hashem. Kol ma Hashem says letovah, gamzu letovah. Then he would have less complaints, less problems. We see. How do we know that this is a lesson that Yosef learns? Because especially in Parashat Miketz, you will see that he realized that everything that happened was for the good. That he was sold to Egypt, that eventually he became a minister, he was put into jail so that he should explain the dream to the Sarah Mashkim. If a person looks through his life, he might be able to detect and see why certain things happen to him. The same is true that Chafetz Chaim says with the history of the Jewish people. Our history is very much like the history of Bechirat Yosef. Yosef being thrown into a bore, into a pit. Yosef being thrown into jail, later becoming king. Right? All of this resembles Jewish history. And many of us, especially right before Mashiach comes, we will have many questions. Why are there so many Jews being killed? Why is there so much death and so much suffering in Eretz Israel? Why? When Mashiach comes, we will understand everything. We will look back and we'll be able to see how everything fits into the picture. How it's all a puzzle. And all the pieces are together. That is why it says, we said in Shir Amalot, that Az Yimales Chok Binu, we will fill our mouths with laughter and joy. Laughter, in other words, we will look back and we will laugh at all that has happened. Now it's no laughing matter because we don't understand. And even if we do understand, you're not supposed to laugh. You're supposed to be sad and depressed that things are the way they are. It could have been different. But at least when Mashiach comes, we will understand what Hashem's cheshbon was. Something we don't understand right now. Okay, I think the last point that we should cover is what happens with Yehuda. Yehuda was the ringleader. Had he said not to sell Yosef, not to throw him into the bore, they would have listened to him. He was the ringleader. He was the main head, even though he was not the oldest one. He was like the head. And it was his fault. What happened? What did he do by selling Yosef? He caused a tremendous amount of pain to his father. And apparently he didn't realize that. He may not have calculated that. He was not sensitive enough. How does Hashem teach him a lesson? You don't know what it feels like to be a father, right? And to lose a child. You're going to get married, and you're going to lose your children. And Onan.
Yeah, two of them.
Hashem kills them.
Why
prematurely. He had 3. Shelah 2.
Yeah, but why he took 2 or not 1?
We don't know why. Apparently Shelah did not do any avon, any sin, that there should be an accusation against him. And his father, with 2, it's enough. But we should not know. So Yehuda loses his wife early, and he loses his children. What for? Hashem says, you don't know, you did not take that into consideration. Even though perhaps Yosef deserved some punishment for what he did. He was definitely not right too. But 2 wrongs don't make a right. It doesn't mean that you have to take revenge, that you have to do something to your own brother. And you didn't take into consideration, you didn't calculate the pain you will cause your father. So you're going to go through an experience
For pain.
similar to your father, so you should feel the pain that your father felt. The same is true with the Shevatim. All the Shevatim felt some pain. When they went through this struggle, when they arrived in Egypt, Yosef gave them a hard time. And we'll talk about that next week. What was Yosef's plan here? Why didn't he reveal to them right away who he was? Why didn't he write his father a letter? Which a lot of people have this question.
You want to see if the attitude changed.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that in Parashat Miketz. But the point is,
But he knew his father was suffering.
right? So we'll talk about it. It's a good question. It's a valid question. So, but that's part of Parashat Miketz. So I don't want to mix it together. The point to remember is that everybody in the end did teshuvah. The brothers too. Everybody realized their mistake. Yosef also realized his mistakes. All along this time, Yitzhak was aware of what was happening.
Yeah.
He knew Yosef was still alive, but he could not reveal to Yaakov because there was a herod. In other words, they made a vow like not to reveal to Yaakov the truth of what happened. And there's even a question later on if Yaakov ever found out the truth.
Right.
Yeah, there are some indications that he did find out the truth. That is why his blessings are said in such a way that he curses. It's not a real curse, but he puts Shimon and Nevi under, where they belong. In other words, by distancing himself from that kind of anger that they showed. And he says different things to different Shevatim. So in some ways, it is possible that he did know. Others say that they never told him. So not to make him feel any worse than he already did. But everything is b'cheshbon. Everything, Yaakov's suffering, the pain that he had for many years was b'cheshbon. And later on, the suffering that the Shevatim had was b'cheshbon. Even though that cheshbon was not so much min hashamayim, it was Yosef himself that planned it on. The rabbis, nevertheless, as I said on Shabbat, tell us that in every generation, this avon comes back to haunt us. And we suffer as a result. So many years have passed, so much has transpired. It's not forgiven, it's not atoned for. So we explained that it's not the sin itself, it's the causes that brought about the sin. The lashon hara, the machloket, the sinat chinam, the baseless hatred, the bickering, the arguing, the jealousy, all that is still around.
Yeah.
So the causes that caused that are still around. That is why it continues to be an accusation against us from the very beginning. Like the rabbis tell us, children are not punished for their parents' deeds. When are they? When they continue to do what their parents did. Then Hashem megalgel the avon of the fathers on the children too. How is the child paying for his father's deeds? Because you're doing the same thing your father did, so you get double. You get double. Right? So that is something that needs to be worked on.
Yaakov was such a big tzaddik. Why did he suffer so much? Why did Hashem give you Laban and Yosef and Dinah and Rachel and one after the other?
There were lessons to be learned from all of these things. Remember, Yaakov represents the Jewish nation. What he went through is what the Jewish nation went through, being persecuted by his enemies.
Yeah.
Right? But Hashem protected him all along, as he promised he would be.
Yeah.
So even though we've suffered, Hashem has protected us. Hashem has been with us all along. As he promised he will be, that he will never abandon us. So when there is suffering, we have to take it in the right light. We have to look at it in the right perspective. Sha'akol letovah. Everything is for the benefit. That there's something to learn from it.